Monday Morning Quarterback, NorthJerseySports.com's original multimedia series talking all things football across North Jersey. This is Season 5, Episode 7, and it's getting serious, especially in the NJIC, where their playoffs will kick off this coming Friday night. I am Corey Doviak, being joined by my usual panel of North Jersey football insiders, starting with the venerable one, Mr. Jimmy Avatable. What's going on, Jimmy?
Hey, what's up, Corey? Some meaningful football this weekend. Playoff spots on up for grabs, the NJIC semi, so it's really a good week of high school football. Yes,
no doubt about it. It's going to be action-packed all over the place, and one guy who I know will be on the trail is our head Husky. He is Dumont's own Brian Carr. What's going on, Bri?
Hey, how about those Huskies, Corey? Second game of the year, they beat Hoboken. I get that in early, right? But it's really good football out there. Friday night, Ramapo and Riverdale, two top teams, and then get to see a good Rutherford team. So, things are starting to heat up in the playoffs this weekend.
Yes, you and Jimmy were a tandem this past weekend. Friday night, you were at the Riverdale Ramapo game. Ramapo won the game. But you got a great interview with Riverdale head coach DJ Nimphius that is definitely an interesting listen to. We'll get that later. We mentioned the NJIC stuff. You guys were on Saturday there when Rutherford beat Manchester to claim the last spot in the NJIC Final Four. You got interviews with head coach Andy Howell, a guest here last week on the Monday Morning Quarterback, and their standout defensive end, Lawson Fisher. We will play those two. We will also go around North Jersey. We'll talk about some of the stuff that happened in the non-public, which was very interesting this past week. And, the public schools, we'll talk PowerPoints, all that stuff. But where we have to start tonight, and lifting the veil back a little bit here on the Monday Morning Quarterback, this interview is already taped, and I want to get to it right at the top of the show because the three of us all found it very interesting and entertaining. We spoke to Wallington head coach Barry Blauvelt, who is Wallington through and through. He went to Wallington High School. He played on their championship team in 1990. He played on the championship team in the finals team in 1991 that lost to my beloved Palisades Park Tigers. But, maybe we'll mention that to him in the interview as well. But he also coached Wallington to their last state sectional championship in 2010. So he bleeds Wallington blue. He is Barry Blauvelt, and he joins us right now on this edition of the Monday Morning Quarterback. Coach, thanks for joining us and taking some time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, it's great to have Wallington back in the news. You guys have had a great season, 6-0. We got a lot of things we want to ask you, but I guess the first one I'll start off with is, did you expect this? Did you see this coming where, another inclusion in the NJIC playoffs now secured a high spot, maybe even a shot at the top spot in the North 1 Group 1 state sectional playoffs? Could you see this coming?
Well, I've been following the kids that we have. I've been following them since they were peewees, and they've always had success. So I knew that if we kept working hard and if we stayed focused and did our, like I like to say, assignment, alignment, and aggressiveness, that we would have a chance to be in this position. But, obviously in the NJIC Patriot, everyone is really on equal field and everyone's a tough out. So each game was a battle and, we had a couple breaks far away and we worked to get those breaks and we are where we are right now. So, is it a total shock? No, but I'm happy for our kids that we are here.
Yeah. As a, former small school Southern Bergen County high school guy myself, when these classes come around, you got to take advantage. I mean, I'm a Pal Park guy. It was amazing that Dave Schumann was able to get them into the Meadowlands 5 years ago now. You played on the 1990 Wallington championship team. You coached the 2010 Wallington championship team. So you can see where the cycle goes. How important is it? Stupid question. How important is it for your kids to take this as far as it can go? Because, in a town like Wallington and where I come from, these heady days don't come around all that often.
Yeah, it's extremely important. It's brought excitement back to the town for football. Over the last 20 years, it's evolved into a soccer town.
Yep.
And as we are getting off the field at practice, we see the younger kids playing, and even, they're giving us high fives, and every time that for a home game, they're always on the field, and we're walking out, and, they line up, and it's a different feel around the community when you have a good group of kids that are being successful as well. So it's extremely important, and hopefully in the future that we are able to get more kids out, more kids to stay home in town and go to school at Wallington, and just bring back a good cycle like we had back in the 90s, where I think we had like 8 straight years of winning records or only one losing record in there and a bunch of championships. So, hopefully that the 2017 team will get that steam rolling again here at Wallington.
Yeah, and I should not neglect to mention that you were a part of the 1990 championship team, also part of the team that lost to Palisades Park in the 1991 sectional final. All right. Hey, some good news about Pal Park here for the first time all season on the Monday Morning Quarterback.
Yeah,
Jimmy, go ahead.
It still hurts a little bit, but that's okay.
Good, Coach, good. I wasn't on that team either. I was already out of high school, but go ahead, Jimmy.
First of all, Corey, I believe there was a controversial pass interference call in that game that went against Wallington, so they were pretty close to going back-to-back, if my memory serves me correct.
Can we get some clarification from the coach?
Actually, it was a controversial punt return call, but
punt return.
Close enough. Punt return, yeah.
So we do a lot of talking about the Group 1 and 2 level teams, obviously in the NJIC, and the excitement of the new tournament formula. But if you can go over some of the challenges that you guys face at the Group 1 and 2 level, as far as numbers, as far as being a small school, as far as you mentioned before, Wallington, being known the last couple of years as a soccer power. If you could just walk us through some of the challenges that you deal with.
The first challenge I'd say is keeping kids home. We got a couple kids that are playing out a couple of the bigger Catholic schools right now. And listen, I wish them the best of luck and everything else, but I would like to keep those kids at home first and foremost, because you lose one kid, and it's actually a 3-way player. You lose him for offense, defense, and special teams. So we have to really work to keep those kids at home. The next thing is a single sport athlete. There's some kids who are basketball players that actually grew up playing football, and when they got to be sophomore year, they decided that they wanted to focus on basketball. So we're trying to really encourage multiple sports, even 3-sport athletes. Whether it's football, basketball, and baseball, or track, and we don't have a wrestling program anymore. But so that's the biggest things. Then the other thing is actually Wallington is a great community, and it's a unique community. It's very heavily Polish and European influenced, and we have some big kids walking the hallway, and they just don't know what football is, and they don't watch it on TV, they don't talk about it at home, and every now and then we do get one of those kids out, and it's amazing how naturally strong those kids are, and if we can get a couple more of those guys out in the future, we'll have a solid offensive line going forward.
Also a great place to get lunch, the town of Wallington. Many local eateries there that fill you up beautifully.
Many. And world famous kibasi in Wallington.
Oh, it's the greatest. Being of Polish descent myself, I could not appreciate it anymore. Go ahead, Brian.
Also a good place to eat, Wallington Exchange. I haven't been down there in a while, but a nice place to go eat. Coach, let's talk about some players. I know you got a returning quarterback, David Bacco. You've got all-league or second-team all-league. You also have Eli Mitchell. And there's also running back, and also Patrick, I'm not sure, is that Kazor? Why don't you talk about those guys?
Kaiser,
what they're
yes.
doing? Kaiser, yeah. Why don't you tell about those guys and what they're doing?
Starting with David. David's one of the kids who I've watched grow since he was in 3rd grade, and he's been our starting quarterback since he was a freshman. And he took his lumps as a freshman and sophomore, and the maturity level that we have seen in him, physically, mentally, emotionally, has been unbelievable. And I think a lot of that credit has to go to the fact that he is a 3-sport athlete, and he's been starting all 3 sports, football, basketball, and baseball, since he was a freshman. And David is, his father is actually on our staff, and, he has a great relationship with our offensive coordinator, Charlie Vellis. So it's almost having, the mentality of another coach out on the field, and when we're, talking about offensive plays, he'll chime in, and most of the time he chimes in, and, we're like, yeah, okay, that works. We can do that. So it's great. He is truly the definition of a field general out on the field.
Yeah. How about some of the go ahead, continue. Some of the other guys. Let's talk about some of your boys here.
All right, Eli Mitchell, he's been starting for us since he was a freshman at running back. And he's a big kid. He's probably about 250, 255. He's put in the work the last 2 years in the weight room. He's squatting about 400 pounds, benching about 300 pounds. And he's actually very nimble and quick on his feet. You should see him play basketball. He's a pretty good ball handler and can run the point. So again, another big athletic kid who's been starting, took some lumps as a freshman and a sophomore. And even last year, he shared, ball carrying duties with a great kid we had, Robbie Radlove. So this was really Eli's first year that, he could take it on his own. And, we told him going into the season, hey, don't be afraid that we're going to give you the ball 30, 40 times a game if we need to. And he worked hard to make sure he's in shape. And, he's our workhorse. That's what he has to do. That's what he has to do. He's probably not going to break the 85-yard run, but he'll get you give him the ball 20 times, he'll get you 5 yards each time.
There you go. That's all you need to move the chains. And that's important, too, because you have, obviously, every Group 1 school, every Group 2 school goes through a lack of depth. I mean, if you can run off one of those time-consuming, grind-it-out kind of drives, you're not only wearing down the opposition's defense, you're also wearing down their offense because most of the time they're the same kids.
And that's another big challenge here in Group 1, that you do have a lot of kids going both ways. We try to keep our offensive linemen only going one way, and we've actually done a very good job at that, and it has given us a little bit of advantage of staying fresh up front. Like say Patrick Kaiser, for example, you had brought him up. He plays outside linebacker, defensive end for us, and he sees some time in the backfield as well. But he's a kid who, in all of our sets, he's not going to be on offense, so that just makes him fresher for defense. And this year we actually have a good size senior class, so we don't need to have, like, Patrick's not on every special team. So we do have a little bit of the luxury of keeping guys fresh. Like Eli only plays offense, and if we need him going at linebacker every now and then, he does. But he's not on any special teams, except for punt. But we're able to keep these guys fresh.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you the next question, and I haven't we've been doing this show long enough that I have it in my mind what Jimmy Avatable is going to ask next. So I'm going to go in a different direction, and then I'm going to see if I'm right after this. But you know what I noticed too? For you guys, you do, and we had Coach Billy Wild from the Milford on early this season, and you notice that the social media aspect of it is big for you guys. I mean, I saw all summer long you were putting up a throwback picture of a guy with a uniform number on, saying 19 days until the start of the season, and you had a guy wearing number 19 from whenever it was back in the yearbook. I thought that stuff was really cool. How important of a role does that play for you? Another example is we had, on my wrestling show, we had Joe Dubuque, who's the assistant at Princeton, and he attributes a lot of Princeton's rise back to prominence in wrestling to social media. I mean, listen, not that you can do it on that level with the budget of a Group 1, public high school in Bergen County, but there is activity around your social media. Does that help you get guys out, get guys involved, and keep the community involved?
Yeah, it definitely helps get the community involved. Like we have a real strong parents club. So we do have about 10 parents that are heavily involved, and we actually have a great alumni base. Being a small town, being from town, I know a lot of these guys who I watched growing up.
Yep.
I have 3 other alumni on my staff. Brandon Santana from 2010, Charlie Vells from 2010 team, and David Backo from the class of '87, who was one of the guys I watched growing up. So, to use social media to keep the whole community informed and our kids to see, like, hey, you know what? Oh, that guy wore my number, 50 years ago. I think if we're not using social media, we're missing out on promoting our program in a positive light. And like I have a guy who's in the Navy in San Diego, who graduated 20 years ago, and he's going back and forth with me nonstop on social media. And matter of fact, this past weekend, after we had beaten Goda, Coach McLean, who lives in Ohio, but he happened to be in New Jersey. He was the head coach of the 76 team. He came to the game, and I was able to talk to him a little bit after the game about the two teams and the championships and everything else. So I think social media is a great way to keep your alumni involved, keep your community involved, and even post practice schedules, so the parents are on the same page with you of what needs to be done. Yeah.
I'm just looking here as you were talking. I pulled up the story from 2010. So I guess we have met because I interviewed you after the game. That was a crazy night, and we refer to that game all the time about, we say, like, we wish the state finals weren't in the Meadowland, a Giant Stadium or MetLife Stadium as it is now, because the home field just adds to the atmosphere. But we always say the one caveat to that was the night that Wallington played Mountain Lakes, when literally the entire town of Wallington was in that stadium. Probably the biggest crowd of support group of any, and I'm talking all through all classifications, was that night was it MetLife Stadium or was it Giant Stadium at that time? I don't even remember.
It was actually, at the time, it was called the New Meadowland Stadium.
The New Meadowland Stadium.
MetLife yet. Yeah. That was definitely a special night. And a bunch of guys who I'm friends with, that coach, they're like, listen, no matter what goes on, at some point, take a deep breath and just appreciate it all. And in between the first and second quarter, I'm walking down the field, and I said, all right, this is where I'm just going to take a deep breath, look around the stadium, and I looked up, and it went from 20 to 20 of all Wallington people.
Yeah. And
it still sends chills down my back right now. And that was a special moment, a special time, and it's special, great bunch of kids that it's when Wallington football is going good. I mean, it's the whole town is behind us, and it's really an outrageous experience to take part of.
Yeah, Mountain Lakes had a 35-game winning streak going into that game. You know what? We're going to move on from this, but I'm going to send a link on Twitter back to the game story from there, because I'm reading it over as we sit here. We got some pictures of, you mentioned Charlie Vellisers, him as a kid in there, and all kinds of stuff. So great memories, and I do remember that game as one of my favorite ones ever to cover. Go ahead, Jimmy. Let's see if I was right about the question you're going to ask now.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about this upcoming Friday night, the NJIC playoffs, the semifinals. You're hosting Hasbrook Heights, the defending NJIC champs and defending North 1 Group 1 champs, and I believe they have a 17-game winning streak going, so obviously a very, very good program. What does Wallington shut down? Hello?
Yep.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. What does Wallington have to do Friday night to come out with the victory? Obviously, you have to defend their offense. They're averaging 42 points a game, and they might have the most dynamic player in the league in Josiah Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of respect for that whole program and for their players. We actually had a tri-scrimmage with them in Rutherford during the summer, which was, we always want to scrimmage the best teams we can, because I think it makes you up your level and up your work ethic going into the season. And Hasbrook Heights and Coach DiCazzo has been there for a long time, and their assistant coaches do a great job, and their players are, hard work and very dynamic, but we're going to focus on what we need to do, and we're going to focus on tackling, blocking, and, like I said before, make sure we're aligned and make sure that we know our assignments and make sure that we are aggressive and physical, in tackling them, and at the same time, same thing on offense, make sure we know our assignments, make sure we're aligned correctly in our formations, and play Wallington football, and that's what we've been doing for the last 6 weeks. Each week we just take it 1 week at a time, and we've just been focusing on what we need to do and try to minimize our mistakes and just take it from there. And, it's worked out pretty good for us this year.
I was right, Jimmy. Go ahead, Bri. One more from you.
Okay, hey, I was at the 2010 game. Great game. I remember being there. You had some really good players. Also, I recall the scrimmage. I was at your 7-on-7 against Heights. I'll send you a picture of you talking to Coach Bear. But just talk about what it really means to the team. I mean, you got a home game against Hasbrook Heights here. Do you think you have a home field advantage? You know, you're going to have to bring out your best effort. What do you think that means to you? The fire department will be there, the whole town.
Right, the fire department, yep.
Well, you know, one of the great things is, yeah, I mean, our whole town will be here, but Haslam Heights is so close, you know, their whole town will be here. You know, so it's going to be, you know, one of those things where you come out and for the first time, you may have 1,000 people here. And I just hope that, you know, our field holds everybody and you know, it's, you know, we have the one set of bleachers and it's going to be standing room only. And, you know, in high school football, it's, you have to appreciate that as a player and as a coach, and whether you're, you know, the home team or the away team, and just, but when you get out on the field, it's the football field the same no matter where you are. So, you know, it's you know, do we have a home field advantage? I would like to say so, because it is our field, and we do, you know, we know even though it's turf, we know the little divots and everything else, and you know, and we'll have the fire trucks there, and we'll have the atmosphere, and, you know, we'll be coming out with our, you know, inflatable helmet, you know, and yeah, so yeah, I think with the home field advantage, you know, we do have it, but at the same time, you know, if you don't come out and take care of business, that crowd could be quiet real quick.
Yeah, could be plenty of seats available in the third quarter if you're not careful, but not that I expect that to happen. Brian, I now have a question for our very own Brian Carr. This is Brian Carr math here. If said game in NJIC playoffs begins at 7 o'clock, and if said capacity of field is somewhere, you know, Coach said he's hoping to squeeze 1,000 in, that's going to be standing room only. With the coefficient, what time does that mean Brian Carr shows up for the game?
Yeah, if I was going, I'd be there around 5:30. You know what I mean? That's where I would go. There's so many choices to go.
I know.
So, you know, we interviewed Coach Howell, and Coach Howell said on Saturday, you know, you got to go to New Milford. You got to see Rutherford play New Milford. So, you know, it's hard. I wish, you know, I suggested to him, and I suggested to Billy Wild, who was at the game, I said, you guys need to schedule this a double header so people can see both games.
Agreed.
So
or Friday night, Saturday.
That's my 2 cents on that subject.
Yeah, because that leads into my next question. I mean, there's so much interest in this NJIC. This is you know, every NJIC coach that we've had on over the last 2 years loves it. Everybody that we talk to love it. We love it. It's got to be, you know, take it to the next level now. Make it available so we can, you know, watch both semifinal games and the final.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing. You know, I don't know if a school would want to give up a home game, so I guess they would have to work out the business part of it. But yeah, I think to have a doubleheader this week and even next week, to go and see four great small school football teams battle each other. I mean, what high school football junkie wouldn't really appreciate and embrace that type of scenario?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. The two doubleheaders, like the third place game and then the championship game right after, would be pretty cool. All right, last one, then we're going to let you out of here. We just have been talking a little bit about it, but just how about this NJIC playoffs being inserted here? Gives your kids something else. It's something to strive for from week one of the season, because you know you got to be a league champ to get in. And then, you know, for it to happen, and, you know, really, in the grand scheme of things, it's the last two regular season games, but you guys have done such a great job packaging it as a mini tournament and, you know, playing for a trophy and all of these things. That was not available when we were around, and now it has really taken off. What are your thoughts?
When it was first presented to us 2 years ago, I thought it was a home run right away. You know, and as a coach and as a football supporter, obviously, it's great because you got the four top teams battling out, but you got competitive games. Last year we were 2-4, I think, going into the NJIC. I call them NJIC bowl games, crossover games, and you know we were able to play Secaucus, which was a competitive game. We were able to play Satterbrook, which, you know, they were the better team, but we hung tough with them. And it allows you to match up. So whether you're on the bottom or the top, you're going to match up with the team that you could possibly beat. You know, and that's really the big joy of it is that, back, 3 years ago when you had the set crossover games, I mean, you get a crossover with a team that, you can't handle with, and there's nothing you can do about it. So now at the last 2 weeks of the season, it keeps the kids interested, it keeps the parents interested, and it gives you something to play for the last 2 weeks, as opposed to, having to go out there and your crossover is with, say a Pompton Lakes or a New Milford, programs that are good year in, year out, and you're having a rough year at, 1 to 5, and it's like, how do you keep your kids interested? So it's a long football. High school football has really gotten to be a long, long season.
Yeah,
so
and preseason.
Doing this, and by doing this, the NJIC doing this, it's keeping the kids interested. It's keeping them competitive. It's keeping them with a hope that, hey, you know what, we're going to work this week, and we have a chance to win Friday night.
Yes, one of the best innovations in high school football since I've been doing this, which goes back to 20 plus years now. So, Jimmy, are we missing anything? I know we were going to let him get out of here, but Coach Blauvelt's doing such a great job. Anything else on your mind?
No, I think we're ready. I think Coach is ready to go. I think Wallington's ready to go, and we'll let him get back to preparing for Asbury Heights.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry Blauvelt, the head coach of the Wallington Fighting Panthers, doing a great job, 6-0, heading into the NJIC. Well, I guess you're in the NJIC championship division while the other teams are in the bowl subdivision. But doing a great job. Congratulations on the run so far, and best of luck going forward. Keep it rolling.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, interesting stuff there with Wallington head coach Barry Blauvelt. Jimmy, that was fun.
And no question. We always talk about it. It's always exciting when you get the Group 1s and Group 2 teams that are having success that might have had a couple of down years in a row. And it's amazing how the community rallies around the program, and that's certainly happening at Wallington this year.
No doubt about it. Bri, well, both of you were there, but Bri, I'm going to ask you, because we'll switch gears in the NJIC now. Rutherford 28-0 over Manchester, 1 touchdown in each quarter. Why don't you set up the clips that you sent in this week from Tryon Field?
Well, yeah, I mean, early in the game, we noticed, at least I noticed for sure, Rutherford really dominated on the defensive line. They were solid on the offense, but their defense really seemed to step up and shut down a good Manchester running program. Manchester came in with like 140 yards per game rushing, and I think they only had 4 first downs in the whole game. So, and they didn't seem to get over across midfield much. So, and our friend, we're going to have an interview here with Lawson Fisher. He really stood out. When he was in the backfield, and the coach even mentions him. He's an excellent player, and he really stood out. I mean, they're 2 quarterbacks. They have a dual threat. They have 2 dual threat quarterbacks that, who's in there at quarterback? You don't know. The starter, it was Kyle, I think Kyle's first. Kyle Russell is the starter. He comes in, starts the game. And all of a sudden, they're switching quarterbacks, and then they've got their other second quarterback in there, at Wildcat. So they seem to have, dual threat quarterbacks and 2 of them. So, and if the Rich Marquez, if he's not out playing quarterback, he's out at receiver. He scored he ran the first touchdown. He caught the second touchdown. So the kids, they have a good group of kids. The defense is solid, and Billy Finn, who's another one of the big stars, is in there, and he just, I think, brings them all together. They have a good team, and I think they're going to give New Milford hopefully a good challenge.
Yes, you mentioned Lawson Fisher. You caught up with him after the game. Here's what he had to say.
Brian Carter, North Jersey Sports. I'm here with Rutherford defensive lineman Lawson Fisher. Lawson, tell us about the game. I thought the defense really stepped up in the first half.
Yeah, we played lights out the whole game. We came prepared. We had the bye week last week, so we really got ready. We worked on, we knew every play that they were coming at us with.
Right. You seem to be in the first half in the backfield a lot, like in the backfield with the quarterback. Sometimes somebody said you were even ready to take the handoff. So what'd you do to get back there?
I just did what my coaches told me. I stayed low, and I just fired off the ball, and I let the rest take care of itself.
Talk about the offense a little bit. I think it was Rich Marquez had 3 TDs, 2 running, 1 pass reception. Wildcat, he kind of talk about him a little bit.
Of course, he was a great addition to our team this year. He's certainly fast. and he just loves to make people miss. So we just give him the ball and hope he can do something with it.
How does it feel to win the league title? It's a division title right now. How does it feel to win that?
It feels great. I was here when we won the first one.
Okay.
I didn't play, but I still had that atmosphere, and it's the same atmosphere.
Okay.
It's just great.
So what do you think you guys got to do this week to get ready? New Milford, big game up there.
It's we just got to do what our coaches tell us, and I think we'll be ready.
Good stuff there with Lawson Fisher. And then the guest that we had last week on the Monday Morning Quarterback, I guess we can now be considered Andy Howell's good luck charm. Brian Carr caught up with him after the game, and here's what he had to say.
Brian Carr here at North Jersey Sports in Rutherford after Rutherford's 28-0 victory over Manchester. I'm here with Andy Howell. So, Coach, talk about the game, 28-0 victory. Seemed to control the game pretty well.
We pretty much dominated in every aspect of the game, which was shocking. We didn't really expect to. They're a great team. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
We knew that Manchester had athletes all over the field. It's just a credit to our kids how well they came out and executed. I know we made a couple mistakes here. We fumbled the ball. We didn't finish a drive, but it seemed like after that, those were the two crucial mistakes we made. But after that, we kind of adjusted, settled down a little bit, and. They gave 100% effort on every play. That's all you could ask for.
You talked to one of your linemen. It was Lawson Fisher. He seemed to really dominate. I noticed in the first half he was in the backfield a lot.
Lawson's the man.
Quarterback. It's not just him. There was other players there, too. It was a whole defensive effort. I think the defense really stepped out.
Lawson's he's the man. He's a defensive end, but when we play wing T offenses, he's our wing T specialist. We move him into D tackle, and that's he trails those guards. He's in the backfield. He's blowing up the play. If you got some D tackles that are athletic like him, long and athletic like him, and strong, they're going to cause some problems for any offense. So, he's a great athlete, great football player.
So defense really stepped out. Offense too. Rich Marquez, right? Rich Marquez?
Yeah, Richie. Yep.
Yeah, he had 3 TDs, 2 running, Wildcat, and really run a lot of Wildcat.
And I don't even want to really call it a Wildcat because we could pretty much run our entire offense with Richie at quarterback. We got 2 quarterbacks, and what are you going to do? They both have some skills that help the team in different ways. So him and Russell, they seem like they're getting better every week, and I guess that's a good problem to have. Like I said before, having 2 quarterbacks.
Right. And then Kyle also had 2 TD passes.
Yeah.
One to Rich, and also the late one to Regan.
The one that was real impressive. We didn't like the call that we had on because of the look that they were giving. So we were able to make that check, and Russell executed it perfectly, making a great throw on the slant to Richie. He's getting command of the offense. Right. He's strides from where he was week 1.
So talk about coming next Friday, going up to Milford. Big, you know them, right? You guys have played.
We know them very well. We know them very well. Billy's got them going over. He's got them going over there. He was here tonight.
Billy was here today on the side.
He's a great coach. They're all Rutherford guys, so we're pretty familiar with them. We scrimmaged them in our game scrimmage, and they got the best of us.
Right.
And they got some dudes up there. They're gonna give us. They're gonna be our best test of the season for sure. So we got to clean up some of those mistakes we made in order to keep competing.
Talk about the playoffs. We us fans would like to see both games because I think they're both going to be on Friday night. It would be nice if we could see both.
What, you mean the Wallington?
The Wallington Heights game is also on the.
I know. I'm sure that's going to be a great game. But come on up to New Milford.
Right. It should be a good game.
They're a physical team. They're a very disciplined team. They're a well-coached team. They've been there before. They were in the state finals last year. Like I said, they got it going on. So we're going to have to limit our mistakes to beat a good team like that.
All right, good stuff there, Bri. Now for the real question that you did you make him uncomfortable? Last week we talked about how you were going to be stalking his sidelines. Did you get removed?
No, he said to me before I recorded him, he said, I didn't see you at practice. So, I said, no, I was away. I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want you to prepare. So he's a pretty intense guy, pretty intense coach. He's got the team rolling. He's got the team playing well, and so they're going to hopefully give New Milford a good test. New Milford, looks like the favorite going into that game, playing at home on the grass field. So hopefully it's a good game, and I'll be down there for Friday night.
Yes, Jimmy, you were there as well. Your thoughts on Rutherford's handling of Manchester, handed Manchester their first loss of the year?
I think Brian was 100% right. The game came down to line play offensively and defensively. And Rutherford has some nice size, as you mentioned, Lawson, Fisher, and the gang. They totally dominated the line of scrimmage. I'll tell you what, I think they have the size to certainly play with New Milford, because anytime you play New Milford, it's going to come down to a physical matchup. I think Rutherford has that, and if they can eliminate some mistakes offensively, Brian mentioned Kyle Russell, who's the thrower, quarterback, Rich Marquez, who they put in a Wildcat, a runner, and they have Abalani Mendez, another wide receiver, running back / wide receiver, linebacker Regan Landrigan. I'll tell you what, they are going to give New Milford everything they want Friday night.
Speaking of Abalani Mendez, Brian, that was a great shot you had it on the front page of NorthJerseySports.com.
Yeah, we try to get some good pictures.
Yep. You did get some good ones there. All right, so that's the NJIC. We got 2 games Friday night, Rutherford at New Milford, Hasbrook Heights at Wallington. I think we've said all that we can about that. So let's switch gears, and Jimmy, I'll go to you first. Friday night to kick off the weekend, the highly anticipated matchup between the reigning North 1 Group 3 state sectional champion Riverdale, which came in undefeated, and the perennial powerhouse that is the Ramapo Green Raider football program, having lost only once all season, and that was on opening week against Wayne Hills. They were on quite a winning streak. Ramapo gets the victory. Give us your thoughts.
Well, I know the last couple of years they played each other after the cutoff, so, it was what was an exciting matchup, thought to be back then. Some coaches rested some players, so it didn't turn out that way. Last Friday, you knew both teams were going to have all their guns ablazing, all their players were going to be playing, and it meant a lot in that North 1 Group 3 bracket. The winner would certainly take the advantage in that bracket, and, you had the 2 great players. You had the quarterback for Ramapo, A.J. Wingfield, and for Riverdale, you had David Estevez. What more could you want? They both showed up. They both played tremendous games. Ramapo was, in my opinion, just a little bit more physical. They were able to really run the ball at Riverdale, which not many people do. They came out with a 23-20 victory, but, Riverdale, you never feel they're out of the game, and until that final first down for Ramapo would ice it, you always in the back of your mind believe Riverdale's going to come back and win, and they probably, we'll see each other in that North 1 Group 3 bracket, and the result might be switched again. So certainly a good test for both teams. Get them ready for the playoffs, and hopefully we'll get round 2.
Yes. All right, Bryce, so you were there too. And interesting because on this show, most of the time we have audio with winning coaches, winning players. We talk to coaches coming off of big wins, all those type of things. Interesting tack that you took on Friday night. You got this interview with DJ Nimphius. So just set up, how did that happen? And as you'll hear in a minute, it's a real good interview. So, why DJ, why this situation, and what do you got?
Well, I pretty much had most of the interviews I completed. I caught a couple players, and I did get a little Drew Gibbs after the game. And I saw DJ on the side there, and I figured he must want to talk. And so I just went over and just tried to get his thoughts. You know him. He's good, and we've had him on the show. You know him. And he's always willing to give his thoughts, and he was pretty upset. I mean, he thinks, I forget the exact words he used, made some bonehead plays. Maybe he took the blame for...
He said, we got out-coached. We'll hear it. Yep.
Yeah. So, but they'll be back, and like Jimmy just said, the results could be different next time. I mean, it's a really good game, 2 good players, yeah. Yeah.
So
he did mention one comment he did mention that his guy David Estevez plays both ways. So he's got the tougher challenge of these 2 really strong quarterbacks, A.J. Winfield versus Estevez. So he knows his guy's got a tougher, and he's got to figure that out. He'll figure it out. He'll come back next time.
Brian, don't give away the store. I mean, that's, a big highlight of the interview. Before you say anything else, I think I better play it. Here's DJ Nimphius with Brian Carr on Friday night after a tough loss.
Brian Carr here after a big game, Ramapo, Riverdale. I'm here with Coach Nimphius. Coach, great game, both sides. We talked about on the sideline, maybe you don't know what's going to go down to. Maybe it's the very end, and you don't know who's going to win. Tell us about your thoughts on the game.
Well, I think we had our chances. I think they did a nice job scheming us, and I think we've got out-coached some, and we probably took too many chances, down in the go zone, and put our kids in a little bit of peril. I mean, if it worked out, it looks good. We made a couple mistakes in there and stuff. We work on it probably about 7 trillion times, but apparently we need to work on it 7 trillion and one. So, we got to get better. We got a tough game coming up this week, and this one's in the bank. As they all are, 2 hours after they're done, you got to move on to the next day. So, good ball club, and we'll see.
What do you think? I don't know if you think your decision to go for it on 4th down there, maybe go for the 3. I don't know if you thought about that at all.
Yeah. Probably should have gone for 3.
3,
right?
Yeah. But you got the short field after that.
I think everybody here thinks it should have gone for 3 because we didn't get a touchdown. So obviously it should have gone for 3.
Right. So both teams really good. Quarterbacks really stood out. I think it was a quarterback duel. AJ Winfield and David Estevez put on a show. And
remember David's playing every down in defense too. There's a big difference there.
Right.
How many tackles did David Estevez make today? How many tackles did their guy make?
Right.
He's a good player, but David plays both ways, and that kid's a great player. But David's has to do a lot. He does a lot, and I think we took some things and made it a little easier for him in the second half. There was some poor play calling in the first half. In the second half, I think we did a better job.
Right. A couple good plays. Touchdown. David had a good touchdown pass in the second half. A couple good throws, I thought, in the second half.
Yeah, we thought we'd get those throws all game, and we probably didn't take advantage of it enough. And,
hey, 5, best player on the field, baby. Way to go.
Yeah, but there's still a lot more season. This isn't the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's still, you got to go to playoffs, and this is not the end of the season here. So there's still more to play for. Right?
Sun will come up.
Right. Tomorrow's another day, and everybody will be back at it. And
there's a lot of people around the world that couldn't give a crap how this turned out, So we live for another day. It's a high school football game.
But it was a great game,
Yeah, well,
it was good.
That's great. I'm not here for the entertainment. We're trying to win ball games.
I know. It's tough to win every game. You guys are very successful. You've been in the playoffs every year since 2006. So very successful. Yeah, you want to win every game, but
well, that's not why you do this. I think people get carried away with that whole playoff nonsense, and one of these days people are going to figure out what this is really about. It ain't about playoffs and newspapers and all that other nonsense and rankings. It's about playing high school football, man. 99.9% of these kids ain't play down football after they get out of high school.
Right.
Play a high school football game. We live for the next day. We learn some lessons. The coaches do too, and we get at it real early in the morning. We try to fix some of the things the stupid head coach did. We'll fix that. No. That's it. If you're not your own worst critic, then who the heck is going to get you better?
Right. You learn from your mistakes.
Well, I think at some point you got to. I think at some point as a coach, you got to be an adult and realize that you might have cost your team the game, and I did cost the team the game. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. Keep up the good work, Coach.
All right. Good job there, Bry. DJ Nimphius. Some interesting conversation there after the loss to Ramapo. Good stuff. This has been a action-packed show. Barry Blauvelt was great. Your clips were great. Let's just touch on a few other things that might have stood out. I will open the floor to both of you guys. I was on the soccer beat all weekend, so I didn't have a chance to catch any football, so I'm going to lean on you guys this week. Jimmy, what stuck out and what should we be looking for? Give us a complete preview and review as only you can do it.
Well, if you go to the non-publics, I think a couple of games pop out. Obviously, Bergen Catholic 20-19 over a very, very tough and game Pope John team. It just seems whenever we're willing to give somebody a non-public Group 4 title and say they are the overwhelming favorite, they come back to the pack. Obviously, Pope John deserves all the credit in the world. I don't think Bergen played their best game, but they survived. They advanced to Friday night, the big one at Don Bosco Prep. Greg Toll coming back, that should add some more excitement there. So that's something to look at Friday night. Also, last Friday night, Paramus Catholic needed a win, got the 22-21 win in overtime over Bosco on a 2-point conversion. A little bit controversial call. Was the kid in? Was he not? Paramus Catholic got the call. They win 22-21. They will take on St. Joseph Regional this Friday night at Paramus Catholic, another game Paramus Catholic needs to secure a home first-round playoff game. And another one this Friday night, you have Pope John going up to DePaul, which is a game we circled about a month ago. That's a battle of the number 1 and number 2 seeds in non-public Group 3. The winner will secure the number 1 spot in the very, very competitive and tough non-public Group 3 bracket.
As I said, as only Jimmy Avatabile can do it. How about Pope John, too? They lose last week in a nail-biter at St. Joe's. They lose this week in a nail-biter at Bergen Catholic, and now they go to DePaul. You talk about running a gauntlet. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Brian.
Tremendous. And also, one more core, I forgot to mention, St. Peter's Prep comes back from a 17-7 deficit in the fourth quarter to St. Joe's. They wound up winning that game. That's their third comeback victory of the year. So St. Peter's has put themselves back in the race for non-public Group 4. And St. Joe's right now is kind of licking their wounds. Didn't play very well against Bosco. We're fortunate to come out with a last-minute victory. And then losing to St. Peter's, they'd like to get back on track because, as I just mentioned, that non-public Group 3 bracket, if you get the wrong matchup early on, you could be out early. So a very important game this week for St. Joe's at Paramus Catholic.
Yep, agreed. Bri, anything stick out to you?
Yeah, for me, obviously the Golden Knights of Old Japan, probably the consensus number one team at public schools in Bergen, North Jersey. They rolled over Northern Highlands 49-10. They'll continue this week, play Indian Hills. We've already talked about the NJICs. I think the other big game, Group 5, you've got Ridgewood, who will be playing Passaic Tech. So that's a big PowerPoint game for both and will affect their positioning in the bracket. The other big battle of Wayne is going on, but, Wayne Valley is a little off this year, but it's always a big battle up there. Let's not forget our Dumont Huskies, who beat the Hoboken, I'm not sure what's their name? Hoboken Bears.
The Red Wings.
The Red Wings.
The Bears.
The Red Wings.
That's great.
They beat them 16 to, I think it was 15-6, and a couple good plays. Ryan Cacciatafaro, running back, had a big 70-yard TD, and Jake Vici last week, when Corey Report lost against Dwight Morrow, he had 4 TDs last week, and this week he had a 30-yard fumble return. So good job for the Huskies. Second win for Ricky Bird, and hey, they should win a few more games. So great for the Huskies and help for the program. The rest, that's about all that caught my eye. Jimmy covered all the non-public.
Yeah.
So NJIC should be a good week this week. I think that's kind of be front and center.
Jimmy, I just,
I have one more. I have one more for you. Obviously, last week, Westwood Ramsey. That's always a very, very competitive game. It doesn't matter. You can throw the records out. Westwood hangs on over Ramsey 17-14. Ramsey. This week, Westwood, who's sitting number one in North 1 Group 2, goes to Dwight Morrow. And last year was a 1-point win for Westwood. Dwight Morrow lost to a very talented offensive Demers team last week. They're 4-3, Dwight Morrow. They're currently 6th in North 1 Group 3. They need those power points, and they would pick up 26 power points with a win over Westwood. And if Westwood would find a way to beat Dwight Morrow, they would clinch the.
They would. I'm sorry, we lost you there for a second. Are you back?
Jimmy lost Jimmy.
If Westwood would beat Dwight Morrow, they would clinch the number 1 seed in North 1 Group 2.
So, Jimmy, just a little bit of record keeping here at the end of this edition of the Monday Morning Quarterback. That was 2 mentions of Dumont's win over Hoboken. Is that true?
Actually 3. You mentioned it 3 times.
And the my weekly report from the Southern Bergen County region, Waldwick Midland Park 41, Powell Park / Leonia Tiger Lions 7, an 0-7 regular season so far for the Tiger Lions. But hopefully we get a good crossover and we can do some damage down the stretch here in the NJIC. We will see, and we will see you all next week on the Monday Morning Quarterback.
Follow the leader.